The neon sign outside the rusty anchor flickered in the evening breeze, casting a dim red glow over the gravel parking lot. Inside, the air smelled of stale beer, fried food, and cigarette smoke. Though smoking had been banned years ago, the scent lingered like a ghost. At the far end of the bar, tucked into a corner booth, sat a woman alone. She was 58 years old, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that had seen more than most people could imagine. She wore a simple black t-shirt, faded jeans, and worn boots. Her hands rested on the table, steady and strong, the knuckles slightly scarred from years of hard work. Her name was Margaret Maggie Henderson. To anyone passing by, she looked like any other regular, maybe a truck driver, a waitress, or a retired teacher. No one would have guessed that 30 years ago, she had been one of the most feared snipers in the U.S. Navy. Maggie had served 28 years as a Navy SEAL, one of the first women to complete Bud-S, parachute school and SEAL qualification training. She had deployed to combat zones 7 times. She had earned 2 Silver Stars, a Bronze Star with Valor, and the Navy Cross, the second highest award for combat bravery. But after her last deployment, a mission gone wrong that left 3 of her teammates dead, she had quietly retired. She didn't want parades or medals or interviews. She just wanted to disappear. So she took a job sweeping the SEAL range at Camp Pendleton. It was quiet work. No one bothered her. No one asked questions. And that was exactly how she liked it. Tonight she was off duty. She had come to the Rusty Anchor for a quiet drink after a long day. She wasn't looking for trouble. She wasn't looking for attention. She just wanted to sit alone, sip her whiskey, and forget about the world for a while. But trouble found her anyway. The bar was filling up fast. A group of bikers, big, loud, covered in leather and tattoos, walked in just after Maggie arrived. They took over the pool table area, laughing loudly, slapping each other on the back, ordering rounds of beer. One of them, a tall, cocky man named Razor Jenkins, spotted Maggie sitting alone in the corner. "Hey, look at this," he said, nudging his buddy. "We got ourselves a lonely lady." His friends chuckled. "Maybe she's waiting for someone." "Or maybe she's just waiting for us," Razor replied with a grin. He walked over to her booth, his boots thudding on the floor. He leaned against the table, his arms crossed, smirking. "You mind if I join you?" he asked, not waiting for an answer. Maggie didn't look up. She kept sipping her whiskey, her expression calm. Razor frowned. "You're not gonna say hello, that's rude." Maggie finally looked at him. Her gaze was cold, calculating. "I'm not here to socialize. If you're looking for company, try the pool table." Razor laughed. "Ooh, feisty, I like that." He reached out and grabbed her glass. "Let me buy you another drink." Maggie didn't flinch. She didn't react. She just stared at him until he dropped the glass back on the table. "Don't touch my drink," she said quietly. Razor's smile faded. "You got a problem, sweetheart." "I've got a problem with people who think they can take what isn't theirs," Maggie replied. "And I've got a problem with men who don't know when to walk away." Razor's face turned red. He wasn't used to being talked to like this, especially not by a woman who looked like she couldn't lift a grocery bag. "You think you're tough," he sneered. "You think you can talk to me like that?" "I'm not talking to you," Maggie said calmly. "I'm telling you, walk away, now." Razor's buddies were watching now, their laughter fading. They could see something in Maggie's eyes, the kind of calm that comes from staring down death too many times to count. But Razor wasn't backing down. "You're gonna regret that," he growled. "You're gonna wish you'd been nicer." Maggie sighed. "You're right, I do wish I'd been nicer, but I'm not nice when people mess with me." She stood up slowly, her movements deliberate, controlled. She was shorter than Razor, but she carried herself like a woman who had spent decades in combat zones. Razor took a step back. "What are you gonna do, lady? Hit me." Maggie didn't answer. She just looked at him and then at his friends. And for the first time, Razor felt a chill run down his spine, because he realized he had no idea who this woman really was. Just as Razor was about to make his move, the front door of the bar swung open. A group of men walked in, 6 of them, dressed in civilian clothes but moving with the precision and discipline of trained warriors. They were quiet, focused, scanning the room like predators assessing their territory. They were Navy SEALs, and they knew exactly who Maggie was. The lead SEAL, a tall, broad-shouldered man with sharp eyes and a scar above his eyebrow, spotted her immediately. His expression changed instantly, from neutral to respectful, almost reverent. He walked over to her booth, ignoring Razor and his crew entirely. "Ma'am," he said, snapping to attention, "it's good to see you." Maggie nodded slightly. "Lieutenant Commander Vance, you're looking well." Vance smiled. "Thanks, ma'am, we heard you were in town, figured we'd stop by." Behind him, the rest of the SEAL team lined up, standing at attention. Not a word was spoken. Not a sound was made. The entire bar fell silent. Even Razor and his friends froze, their mouths hanging open. "What the hell is going on?" Razor muttered. Vance ignored him. He kept his eyes on Maggie. "We've got a mission briefing tomorrow morning," he said. "I'd be honored if you join us. Your insights would be invaluable." Maggie considered it for a moment, then she nodded. "I'll be there." Vance saluted her. "Thank you, ma'am." He turned to his team. "Let's go." As they walked out, the bar remained completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the bartender stopped wiping down the counter. Razor finally found his voice. Who the hell was that? One of the older patrons at the bar, a man with gray hair and a weathered face, looked at him and shook his head. "That son," he said quietly, "was Lieutenant Commander Evelyn Maggie Henderson, one of the finest snipers this country has ever produced. She served 28 years in the Navy. She deployed 7 times. She saved lives under fire, and she earned the Navy Cross." Razor's face went pale. "Wait, you're serious?" "I'm always serious," the old man replied. "And if you ever mess with her again, you won't live to regret it." Razor swallowed hard. I didn't know." "That's the point," the old man said. "You weren't supposed to know." He turned back to his drink, leaving Razor standing there, stunned and ashamed. Part 4. The Truth Behind the Quiet Woman. Later that night, Maggie sat alone in her small apartment off base, staring at a photograph on her kitchen table. It showed a group of SEALs in combat gear, standing in front of a dusty building somewhere in the Middle East. She was in the center of the group, younger than, her face streaked with dirt and sweat. Those men had trusted her with their lives. Some of them had died following her orders, and she had carried their memory with her every single day since. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a wooden box. Inside were her medals, the Navy Cross, the Silver Stars, the Bronze Star. She had kept them hidden away for years, unable to look at them without feeling shame. But tonight she looked at them. She traced the edges of the Navy Cross with her fingers, remembering the mission that had earned it. It had been during her final deployment. She was leading a reconnaissance team deep behind enemy lines. They had been ambushed, outnumbered, and outgunned. 3 of her teammates were killed in the first moments of the attack. Maggie had taken command. She had organized the survivors, called for air support, and held off the enemy for 6 hours until reinforcements arrived. But that was not what she remembered most about that night. What she remembered was carrying a wounded Marine, a 19-year-old kid named Michael Torres, for 2 miles through enemy territory. He had been shot in the stomach and was bleeding badly. She had known that if she stopped moving, he would die. So she had kept moving. By the time they reached safety, her arms were numb and her back was screaming in pain. But Michael Torres was alive. He had gone on to serve another 10 years in the Marine Corps. He had gotten married, had 3 children, and become a sergeant major himself. And every year on the anniversary of that night, he called Maggie to thank her. She closed the box and put it back in the drawer. She had spent so many years hiding from her past, trying to forget, trying to disappear. But tonight something had changed. The SEALs had seen her. The old man at the bar had recognized her, and for the first time in decades she felt like maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to hide anymore. The next morning, Maggie arrived at the SEAL training facility early, as always. She was greeted by Lieutenant Commander Vance and his team, who treated her with the utmost respect. They briefed her on the upcoming mission, asking for her input on tactics, terrain, and enemy behavior. She gave them detailed advice, drawing from decades of experience. When the briefing ended, Vance walked her to the door. "Ma'am," he said, snapping to attention, "thank you for coming. We couldn't have done this without you." Maggie nodded. "You're welcome, Lieutenant Commander. Just remember, never underestimate anyone, because the person you dismiss today might be the one who saves your life tomorrow." Vance smiled. "I'll remember that, ma'am." As she walked away, Maggie noticed something unusual. A group of young SEALs were standing near the gate, watching her. When she passed them, one of them stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said, snapping to attention, "I owe you an apology. I didn't know who you were. I made fun of you. I disrespected you. And I'm sorry." Maggie looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Apology accepted, petty officer. Now go get some rest. You've got a long day ahead." The young SEAL saluted her. "Yes, ma'am." As she drove away, Maggie felt something she hadn't felt in years. Purpose. She wasn't just sweeping the range anymore. She was teaching the next generation of snipers. And that mattered. That evening, Maggie returned to the Rusty Anchor for another quiet drink. This time, when she walked in, the bar fell silent. The bikers were gone. The pool table was empty. Even the bartender nodded respectfully as she took her usual seat. No one bothered her. No one mocked her. No one even looked at her too closely. Because everyone knew who she was. And they knew better than to mess with her. As she sipped her whiskey, Maggie thought about her life. She had spent decades in the shadows, working quietly, making a difference without seeking recognition. She had faced ridicule, dismissal, and doubt, and she had never let it break her. And now, finally, the world had seen her for who she really was. Not just a quiet woman at the bar. Not just a former SEAL. But a warrior, a leader, a hero. And as she walked out of the bar that night, the moon shining brightly above her, Maggie knew one thing for certain. Her story wasn't over. It was just beginning.